Heating and heating costs are a big deal in Fairbanks. Currently, if you haul your own heating fuel, you can get it for about $3.73 a gallon from Sourdough here in town. And so if you're gonna go haul your own 500-gallon tank, or end up hauling 500 gallons to fill an empty 500-gallon tank, which is pretty standard around here, it can end up costing $1,865 to fill it yourself if it's empty. So when we first got here and we heard that there was a way to live here without spending a penny on heating fuel, we were all ears. And so what's this magical secret to living in Fairbanks without spending any money on heating fuel? It's called a wood stove. And believe it or not, it's 100% possible to live here, heat your home, all winter long with just wood. And make sure you stick around to the end, because the reasons why our second home didn't have a wood stove may make you reconsider getting one. So this was our first home in Fairbanks. It had a Blaze King model wood stove. It was amazing. We would start a fire in the middle to late September. It's kind of late August right now, and I would love to have a wood stove right now because I would start it and be so toasty. But back then it'd be mid to late September when we'd start a fire, and with the help of the catalyst that is into those awesome wood stoves, specifically, Blaze King wood stoves are super efficient. They're really great. We'd start a fire then, and we'd essentially keep it going until May. What we would do is we'd get up every morning, pack the stove full of wood. We get all the coals together in one little spot, pack the stove full of wood, crank it up till it was in kind of the hot zone. Once it was at the hot temperature, we'd turn it down to a smoldering temperature, and it would stay there. We'd get home from work, later in the evening and repeat that, and it would be ready with hot coals in the morning for us to start back over again. It was fantastic. And we would do that all winter long. The thing is though, that stove kept us roasty toasty all winter long. And I don't mean just like kind of warm. I mean like we would have friends over for dinner parties and we would tell them that shorts and t-shirts were essential, otherwise they would be uncomfortably overdressed. It was like living in a permanent sauna. It was pretty awesome. Now, looking back at our time there with the wood stove, that wood stove was probably oversized for our home. It was like 1,600 square feet, and that stove heated it all perfectly. It was awesome. But again, we didn't know, and it came with the house, so we just lived with the heat. Now, the other positives far outweighed the negatives for us at that time. So one of the big positives, we didn't pay anything for heating fuel because we didn't use any. We did have a small Toyo little monitor stove, but we never used it. If we went out of town for a couple of weeks, we'd turn that on. But for like the first 5 years, we didn't ever buy heating fuel at all. Now, the best firewood that you can get is going to be, dry, super dry, split birch wood, if you can find it. And it'll burn really long, and it makes for a really good coal bed. The next best thing after that you can find is going to be like some really dry split spruce wood. White spruce is fantastic. If you can get it, standing dead, fire killed is really great wood too. It can be super dry because it's already dead and it's been standing dead for a little while. So you can split it, stack it. You can get a log, split it, and just throw it right in the wood stove right now, and it's gonna be ready to go. But when it comes to finding wood, if you don't have that just readily available, when it comes to finding wood, we found ways that were pretty affordable. So here's a few. Number one, we paid attention while we were driving around town. So if you know what to look for, you'll end up seeing these kind of all over town. And one of the things that we would see as we're driving around town are signs that would just say free firewood. What will end up happening is that people will be clearing parts of their lot and will have so much wood that they'll be like, well, I don't want to haul this to the transfer station and I don't want to have to deal with it, so I'm just going to put up a sign and someone can come pick it up for free. As long as they haul it off, they can have it. And you'll also see these all over Facebook Marketplace too. It's a great place to be looking for, for free wood, for cord wood, for cords of wood too. That's a great spot to look for it. Back then, Facebook Marketplace didn't exist. We used something called Craigslist. You may have heard of it. So check out those sources. Number two is firewood vendors. There are folks that will go out and cut, split, and dry firewood for you. And so that way, if you want to have firewood delivered, directly to your house, they'll do it. It's already cut and split. Sometimes it's even dry, and you don't have to go pick it up yourself. They'll deliver it right there to you. All you have to do is kind of stack it yourself. If you pay them a little extra, some people will even stack it for you. Be careful though, because there are a lot of folks out there that will make posts on Facebook about how they paid for dry wood and then ended up getting green wood instead. So it's kind of a crapshoot. So if you're going to be going this route, or if you're going to be living long-term in a home with a wood stove, it makes a little bit of sense to invest in a moisture meter. So that way you stick the moisture meter into a piece of wood and it will measure how moist, or the moisture content of the wood. You want to shoot between, below 20%. That's kind of the maximum, moisture content that you want to have. Closer to 10% is a little bit better though. Remember though, if your plan is to stack it and keep it dry for a year or more, then buying green wood might be the best choice for you. And sometimes you can get green wood at a little bit of a reduction in price. So if you're going to buy it for next year, stack it for a year, split, it'll dry over that whole period of a year, it's a little bit of cost savings for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some folks you can contact in the description below. So that way, if you're interested in looking at some sources to deliver some split firewood for you, you've got some folks that you can contact. The next way you can get a hold of some wood is to buy green bulk, just log lengths. And these are tree lengths. Here's a picture of them. This is the choice that we made every year. And what we would do is we would go into it with a couple of neighbors and we'd buy between 10 and 20 cords, and it's a lot of wood. And they would deliver this fresh green wood directly to the house, and we had kind of a big parking area, so this was okay. And they'd unload all of this wood, just drop it right there. Then we and a couple of our neighbors over a couple of weekends would spend time cutting the wood. A few of us would be cutting, a few of us would be splitting the wood, and we'd get the whole thing knocked out over a couple of weekends. So we would do that in the summer and have all of our wood put away for the rest of the summer, so that way it could dry and we'd have plenty for this year because we did it the year before, and it worked out really, really well. So we always had a stable supply of dry wood because we did this process every single year. And because we went into it with our neighbors, they got wood, we got wood, they got wood because everyone was able to take care of everyone. We divided up the labor, we divided up the cost, and it ended up working out really well for everybody. Thinking about moving to Fairbanks? Well, click on the link below for my free relocation guide where I talk about top schools, top neighborhoods, and so much more. The last way to get a hold of a whole bunch of wood for yourself is to go out and cut your own. So this one is also available. The state of Alaska will issue you a permit to go out and cut your own wood, and each household can get up to 10 cords a year, and each permit or each cord ends up costing about $10 a cord. So while this seems like it may be the cheapest option, keep in mind that 1 cord of green birch wood can weigh about 4,300 pounds. It's a lot of weight. And a cord of green spruce can weigh close to 2,800 pounds. So before you go felling a whole bunch of trees, on your own, which is incredibly dangerous, by the way. Like I didn't know how dangerous it was until I started doing it myself. It's super dangerous. Remember that you'll somehow need to get that wood back home. So you drop a whole bunch of trees, you start cutting it into, stove length logs and then loading that up into the back of your truck. Make sure that your truck can handle that much weight before you start loading it up and then driving down some of these bumpy logging roads, because that can be tough, especially with gas being over $4.30 a gallon. Sometimes it's cheaper just to pay for it already split. But if you're interested in taking a look at that, what I've done is I've dropped a link to the wood permit link, and there's also a link to the firewood cord weight, so that way you can see how much wood really weighs. This brings me back to the reason why we don't have a wood stove in the second home that we bought in Fairbanks. So the great thing about wood and heating with firewood is that it tends to keep you warm in the winter, and it will also keep you warm in the summer. And the reason being is that it's not something that you can ever really ignore, especially when temperatures get really, really low. If your fire should go out for any reason, your home loses heat. And if you're depending on firewood alone to maintain your home's temperature, once it hits to really, really low temperatures, it doesn't take long before your home can freeze up really, really quickly. But realistically, as long as you've fed the stove in the morning, you feed it at night, and you've got a high quality wood stove, you should be fine. But in order to do that, you have to have wood. So it's something that you always have to be mindful of. In order to have wood, you should have spent some time in the summer collecting wood, splitting wood, stacking wood, making sure that it's dry enough, making sure that it's, staying out of the elements, but still having enough air to flow through it to get it to breathe. So what that would end up doing is taking up a lot of our time in the summer, which is fine. But as we started to grow our family, and have kids, we wanted to spend our time in the summer doing other things. And apart from that, you know, with hauling wood to the house from the woodshed and bringing in load after load after load after load of firewood, we were constantly having to clean wood chips and bark and ash and soot from our house. And we didn't want to need to keep sweeping the floors every 10 minutes in order to keep the house clean. So when we bought our second home in Fairbanks, we made sure to buy a home with radiant floor heating and no wood stove. But that was just our preference. So we liked walking around with nice warm feet. And we were able to do that with a wood stove, but it's a little bit different with radiant floor heating. Hope you got some value out of this. If you did, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You know, you can see a lot more of the Fairbanks real estate related content that we're putting up at least twice a week. If you've got questions about these topics or any others, you can drop them in the comments below. Answer those every single day. You can also give us a call, 907-885-0316, or you can check out our website at www.fbxhomesearch.com. Thank you so much and have a great day.